Alrighty, what's on the docket for the next 2 weeks? Well, Hello everyone and welcome to this week's game devlog on the Blue Dots Expedition, a turn-based strategy flight game. I may have bitten off more than I can chew in terms of that list, but I did get half of them in 14 days. Let's get into it. Last we left off, the missile was working in both modes. All that was left for our first pass was to spice up its look and functionality. Tackling the latter first, I created 3D models based on my sketches with the usual color palette for both modes with animated versions for some extra flair. The former was a little trickier, specifically the separation mechanic, needing to know when to separate, how to separate, and how to behave afterwards. Repurposing the detection collider, I made it so that when players are in range, and enough turns have passed, the missile segments will start to separate, making players decide which one to take priority over. Whichever one is chosen will still cost time when taking out each segment. And with that, I've rounded off the enemy list. And aside from a couple bosses I'm planning, enemies are finished in the sense of minimum first pass, and I can start polishing them when I need to, allowing me to work on some more internal systems. You can argue I'm skipping over acres of tasks by starting an achievement system. In my defense though, getting it implemented relatively early saves headaches later on. One main motivator is that if the game isn't on a system that supports achievements, I still want players to have them. Kinda like how Ratchet & Clank included skill points way back when. There's an achievement manager with an ever-expanding enumeration list of achievements to test out, with a notification controller that handles getting the title, the description, anything visual. To make sure that it isn't a big ugly mess of an array with a scriptable object slot and a boolean to check if it's achieved or not, the next best thing was to make a reorderable list so I could see it all at once instead of just constantly collapsing it, especially since achievements will come and go based on player feedback, so I could add and take out a specific achievement when I need to without having to reset the entire list. And I hand it off to you. What kind of achievements would you like to see? Suggest it down in the comments and I'll start compiling a list. Crossing this one off. Surprisingly not as time consuming as I thought it was going to take, even if it's just 2 object types. The asteroid field, which is just a collider and tiled sprite art. If players enter, ship speed will decrease gradually until it's 0, resetting it when it's the player's turn. Simple yet useful for making scenarios. Moving to visual scenario mechanics, the fog of war, a staple in strategy games. The object consists of a sprite renderer with color transitions and a collider. In order to decloud it, I added a sprite mask to the player's ships, so when they get close enough, it's apparent. To make them completely disappear, I made some distance collision logic that checks if the players are in the collider, and if the players are close enough, the fog will fade away. It's almost refreshing how simple these were compared to what I've been working on for the last few months. Keeping with relatively simple tasks, I've started a little debug system for testing and for testers later on. Basic shortcuts and tools for quick iteration testing and experimentation. I put in a request for suggestions in my Discord server, and at the time of recording, the following has been programmed. Turning the frame rate off and on, quick level select, a training room, invincibility, and instant death. There's more to program like super damage for bullets, having the training room spawn specific enemies based on button presses to test their individual behaviors in an isolated setting. Biggest feature I personally want to implement is a bug reporting system to send straight to my company email if it's possible, fingers crossed. And I'm sure there's more features and requests to put in. Let me know what kind of feature you'd like to see for testing. Gotta know what works and what doesn't from other perspectives. This was a long time coming. Despite the iterations thus far, the 2 main influences remained: Star Fox and Devil May Cry. In fact, a big motivator was because I was sick of waiting for a great Star Fox game to be made, along with past fantasies of Devil May Cry creator Hideki Kamiya wanting to make a Star Fox game a decade ago. For those unfamiliar, Devil May Cry is kind of the benchmark for quote-unquote character-driven action games for its technical and insane amount of control it gives the player to pull off some ridiculous ridiculously ludicrous combos, with even the characters reflecting that mindset.
Cool trick. Hey, do you do parties?
And I freaking love it.
So, you're the strongest in the litter. Looks like we're gonna need a bigger leash. Come.
Anyways, at the end of each mission, it always gives the player a grade depending on factors like time spent, stylish points, and orbs collected, along with a few multipliers here and there, no damage being an example. This kind of ranking style went hand in hand when I was doing my research on pilots, specifically a quote from Thomas Wolfe's The Right Stuff when talking about Air Force pilots. Of course, DMC is a fast-paced action game, and this is a more methodical kind of game. It was just a matter of changing criteria in my game. It's currently looking at how many turns were spent, how much damage was taken, how many ships are left, along with a couple of potential multipliers like no damage and all ships surviving. This is by no means official. I'm thinking of giving enemies logic to add to the score, so I'm open to other factors and multipliers. Let me know what you think. And of course, criteria in each level will be different, so I made a scriptable object with different points and limits for each level that can be easily edited during playtesting. Had to break out some editor scripting for that minimum maximum slider, and some messages to make sure I'm not stepping on any toes. Okay, that was a lot. Next time I hope to actually make some levels with a steady escalation of difficulty as the game goes on. And maybe I'll go back to that dusty hub world made over a year ago. That'll be it for this week. Let me know if you have any questions or feedback. Take care of yourselves and have a good week.